In recent times, there's been a campaign by Google in China to say that the Chinese hacked into Google, and therefore Google became a cause célèbre for the American government to attack the Chinese government. What they didn't say is that the responsibility for the hacking into Google was caused by Internet Explorer 6 made by Microsoft. And after considering that Google have got their own browser, it's a bit stupid that their corporate activities in China should be running on Internet Explorer, but leave that aside. This is merely an indication, a little indication, of the type of conflicts that there are conflicts emerging over steel, over toys, over clothing, and so on and so forth. But the question is, how are they going to prevent such development in China? They would like to see, and it's possible that it will happen, some sort of upheaval in China which would overthrow the Communist Party and establish a capitalist regime, which may result in the breakup of China, the division of China, civil war in China, something of that nature. There may be such a process, but I doubt it. I doubt it. Because with such a rapid rate of growth, when the Soviet Union was growing 7–8%, nobody even dreamed that the Soviet Union would collapse. And it didn't. It wasn't going to collapse then. Even the totalitarian regime that it had, which everybody hated, or nearly everybody hated, that didn't collapse. And it didn't collapse because people's bellies were full enough and people saw progress. Now, if you go to China, one thing you won't dispute, my friend, is everywhere you go in China, you see progress.
Well,
almost everywhere. Almost everywhere.
An incredible amount of poverty.
I'm not disputing that. Yes. I'm not disputing that. But there is, at the same time as you see this accumulation of wealth by a minority, which is a horrendous thing happening in China, at the same time as you see that, you can look out over the dusty skyline, and you can see emerging out of that dusty skyline, as far as you can see. Look on Google World. Take a look at the cities in China. Just go on there. Look, Shenzhen, Shijiazhuang, Heliongjiang, the province, Jilin province. Look at the cities, Chengdu and around there.
Guangzhou,
each of these towns. Guangzhou is an old town.
Yeah, but you know what that is.
Well, Shenzhen was nothing. Now 10 million people in 20 years. From nothing, 10 million people. So, and this is a modern city. Out of the dust, modern city. Makes London look old. London is old, actually. London is old. The balance of global power is shifting.
Shanghai's a London city.
Same thing. I lived in Shanghai in 1990. There were 700 private cars. Now they have motorways running through the city. When I went to Shanghai in 2005 and drove through the city in a taxi, you couldn't recognize it.
In Beijing
it was unrecognizable.
There were no cars.
I didn't say there's anything wrong in that. I'm saying this development and progress is an indicator that this concept that the United States of America can somehow stop. What can they stop? They can't even stop, you know, a guy with a beard in the mountain. So how are they going to stop a country with hundreds of millions of producers? How are they going to stop it? It's impossible. So
he mentioned it's a good point about the division of wealth within China.
Well, that's true.
In comparison with the division of wealth in America. Right? So, but from your point of view, just a second. From your point of view, we know that China is a dictatorship. Okay, that's one thing. But from your point of view, America is supposed to be a democracy, and it has such a division of wealth. So how are you going to make this comparison?
I would agree with so much about I thought we were wrong in Vietnam. I thought we were wrong in Iraq. I mean, there's a lot of people that thought Bush has ruined our country, and that's what I believe. I believe that Bush has made our country into something. I mean, he uses military power and torture and stuff. That's not what we're about. People looked up to us for ideals. I mean, they were drawn to us. You know, and a lot of people are mourning for our country, in our country. But all I'm saying about China is that China is no picnic. They have incredible problems.
Nobody has said this.
They are killing their girl babies. There's going to be because the one-child policy in China has created a situation in the Chinese culture values males. They do not value females.
The question, however,
so
is...
there's going to be all kinds of social problems in
question
China
is,
that are on the horizon.
But I don't think they're matched to what the American social problems are.
America.
The reason I say this is because if you go to China, as he said, you can look, you may be poor, you can see progress. In the United States, you can see a whole load of people that were rich now going down to poverty. So you can see poverty increasing. And I think the social problems, of a country going backward and an empire that is disintegrating.
Just one second. I just want to make one little point.
But let me just say, what's happening is that I think people overspent. They lived on credit cards and so forth. There's not a lot of people.
Blaming the people, not the banks.
That's right.
I just want to finish on this very simple point.
So
the issue is not to praise China. The issue is to describe what is happening and why it is happening. That's the issue. It's not to condemn America.
I don't agree with your description of what's happening.
Let me speak for 1 second. Let me speak for 1 second. The issue is to describe what is happening. Now, we can disagree what's happening. We can disagree about what's happening. But let me give you my explanation. I'm standing on a platform to explain what I think is happening. So what I believe is happening is this. Now, the gentleman is saying China is more capitalist than any other country. Many other people have a big argument with my fellow comrades, and eventually they sort of attacked me ferociously because I maintained this argument. That the most important question for any communist or socialist today, and probably for the majority of mankind, is what is happening in China. Because that is going to decide the fate of mankind. That's my opinion. Why do I say that? Because here we have all the unresolved contradictions on a world scale. Everything that existed in the Cold War, the contradictions that existed in the Cold War, are reflected in what's happening in China. Every argument, dictatorship, communism, planning, capitalism, exploitation, inequality, all those contradictions exist in China. At the same time, a stupid journalist, he wrote an article in one of the main capital, I can't remember which, Economist or Times, something like that. And they put in there, he says in there, in October he went there and he said, in China, I went around the cities and I asked, is anyone in favour of the communists? And no one believed in communism, he said. He said, no one believes in communism in China. But you see, the problem is not the word, the problem is the essence. What is the essence and what is the outlook of the masses in relation to the essence? And then this stupid journalist, he said at the end, and I met one person, and he turned around and said, listen, if there was democracy in China, and someone stood up and said, down with inequality, he would get elected with an overwhelming majority. Now, I think you were indicating the same type of argument. In other words, were there to be a genuine democratic socialist movement in China, it would sweep the board. That's the point. That's the point. The development of a working class, the development of the proletariat a la Karl Marx, lays the foundation for socialism. You could never have had socialism with 80% or 90% of the population working on the land. Marx described the peasant, sack of potatoes, all separate. You can't unify them to control society democratically. You can only unify the interlinked working class because the means of producing wealth are controlled by their hands. And thereby, if they use their hands and their brains to exercise control over society, then they can lay the foundation for genuine communism. And that is the reason why the Communist Party of China declares itself to be adhering to Marxism. Not because they believe in Marxism, many of the top people, but because they're scared the masses will adopt the ideas of Marxism. That's why this process is happening. And that's my contention. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I've been up for quite a long time. I'll be up again a bit later. Thanks very much for listening. About 25 minutes to get up again.